good slider, and a splitter.
Swing, and it does it again.
The San Diego Padres have some of the worst contracts on the books in all of baseball. A few years ago, they acted like a kid who had their parents a credit card. I want this toy and this toy and this toy. Oh, while we're at it, yeah, give me those 5 other toys too. Thank you. The whole organization operated that way for a while under Peter Seidler's ownership. Spend, spend, spend. Who cares about the consequences? We're going to win a World Series. Except they didn't. They spent $250 million in 2023 and missed the playoffs entirely. Then they panicked, traded Juan Soto, cut payroll by $80 million, and somehow won 11 more games in 2024, which, if you're doing the math at home, means they spent less money and got better results. That's not how it's supposed to work according to A.J. Preller's playbook, but here we are. And now the whole thing is falling apart. Mike Shildt, their manager who took them to the playoffs in both of his seasons, just retired because the stress literally made him sick. The Seidler family is in a full-blown civil war over who controls the team, and they're exploring selling the franchise just 2 years after Peter Seidler died. So thank you so much for being here, subscribed or not. And if you haven't joined the elite humans who hit that subscribe button, consider doing it if you like watching franchises implode in slow motion, because that's exactly what's happening in San Diego right now. Let's start with the man who made all of this possible, Peter Seidler. And I want to be clear about something up front. Peter Seidler was, by all accounts, a genuinely good person. He cared about the team. He cared about the city. He cared about winning. He was a 2-time cancer survivor who beat non-Hodgkin lymphoma twice and still poured his heart and soul into making the Padres competitive. When his investment group bought the team in 2012, and he took over as primary owner in 2020, he fundamentally changed how the Padres operated. Before Seidler, the Padres were your typical small market team. Low payroll, develop young talent, maybe compete for a few years, then sell off your stars and rebuild. Rinse and repeat. It's the small market cycle that teams like the Rays and Guardians still run today. Seidler said, screw that. We're in San Diego. We have great weather, a beautiful ballpark, and passionate fans. Why can't we spend like the big boys? So he did. He approved massive contracts for Manny Machado. He signed Xander Bogaerts to an 11-year, $280 million deal. He traded for Juan Soto and was prepared to extend him for whatever it took. He pushed the 2023 payroll to $250 million. Third highest in baseball behind only the Yankees and Mets. And you know what? I respect it. I really do. He was trying to win. He wasn't content to just collect revenue-sharing checks and field a 70-win team every year. He wanted to bring a championship to San Diego. That's admirable. That's what owners should do. But here's the problem. Wanting to win and actually building a championship team are two very different things. And the Padres, despite all that spending, never figured out the second part. Peter Seidler died on November 14th, 2023 at age 63. The cause of death wasn't disclosed, but he'd undergone a medical procedure in August and had been battling health issues related to his cancer history. His death was devastating for the organization and the city. He was beloved. He was the guy who finally made Padres fans believe they could compete with the Dodgers. But the moment he died, everything started falling apart. And I mean everything. First, there's the payroll situation. That $250 million payroll in 2023, it was unsustainable. The Padres are a small market team. They don't have Dodgers or Yankees revenue. They were spending 40% more than they had just 2 years earlier, and it was creating serious cash flow problems. Reports came out that the team had to take a $50 million loan just to cover their obligations. $50 million. That's not a sign of a healthy organization. And what did all that spending get them? They missed the playoffs. Completely, totally, embarrassingly missed the playoffs with the third highest payroll in baseball. They went 6-22 in one-run games. They went 0-11 in extra innings. 0-11. You could put a triple-A team out there and they'd accidentally win at least one extra inning game just by luck. The star players they paid all that money for, they underperformed. Xander Bogaerts had his worst season in years, hitting his lowest batting average in 6 years and grounding into a career-high number of double plays. Fernando Tatis Jr. posted career-worst numbers in multiple categories. Juan Soto was good, but not good enough to carry the entire team. Manny Machado was solid, but he's making $35 million a year. Solid isn't good enough for that price tag. It was a complete disaster. And the worst part, it was predictable. Anyone who understands baseball economics could have told you that spending like the Yankees when you have Padres revenue was going to end badly. But AJ Preller, the emperor of baseball operations, didn't care. He just kept making moves like he was playing MLB The Show with unlimited budget mode turned on. Let's talk about AJ Preller for a second because this guy deserves his own section. AJ Preller has been the Padres president of baseball operations since 2014. That's 11 years. And in those 11 years, the Padres have a losing record. They've made the playoffs 3 times and never made it past the NLCS. They've burned through prospects like they're going out of style, and they're stuck with some of the worst contracts in baseball. The Xander Bogaerts deal is the crown jewel of Preller's failures. 11 years, $280 million for a 30-year-old shortstop when the team already had shortstops and more pressing needs at other positions. The Red Sox offered him around $160 million over 6 years. The Padres nearly doubled it. Why? Because Preller operates on the philosophy of if we throw enough money at the problem, it'll go away. Except it doesn't go away. It just creates new problems. Bogaerts immediately struggled in his first season, posting his worst OPS since his rookie year. His defense declined. He's now 32 years old with 9 years left on his contract. 9 years. He'll be 41 when this contract expires. What are the odds he's still productive at 41? I'll give you a hint. They're not good. And it's not just Bogaerts. Preller has a history of failed signings and trades. Nelson Cruz, Matt Carpenter, the Matt Kemp trade. The list goes on and on. Every time Preller makes a move, it looks great on paper. Big name player, exciting addition, fans get hyped. Then the player underperforms or gets hurt or just doesn't fit the team, and suddenly you're stuck with a bad contract you can't move. This year, Preller traded 14 players at the deadline. 14! That's not roster management. That's a fire sale. That's admitting you screwed up so badly that you need to blow up half the team just to try to fix it. And the crazy thing is, he's still employed. He's still making decisions. He's still the guy in charge of building this roster. If I performed this badly at my job for 11 years, I'd have been fired 10 and a half years ago. But Preller keeps getting chances because I don't know why, actually. Maybe it's because he's good at convincing ownership that the next move will be the one that fixes everything. Maybe it's because firing him would be admitting that the entire organizational philosophy has been wrong. Whatever the reason, he's still there. And the Padres are still stuck with his mistakes. Now, let's talk about Mike Shildt, because his story is genuinely sad. Mike Shildt was hired as the Padres manager before the 2024 season. He had a great track record, won Manager of the Year with the Cardinals, known as a player's manager, respected around the league. The Padres were lucky to get him. In his first season, 2024, the Padres made the playoffs despite cutting payroll by $80 million. They won 93 games. They were competitive. By all accounts, it was a successful season. Then in 2025, they made the playoffs again. 2 years, 2 playoff appearances. Most managers would kill for that kind of success, but Mike Shildt retired after the 2025 season. And when he explained why, it was heartbreaking. He talked about poor sleep, chest pains, hair loss, getting sick constantly, death threats, overmanaging a baseball team. He said the mental and physical toll of the job was too much. He had 2 years left on his contract, but he couldn't do it anymore. The stress was literally killing him. And you know what? I don't blame him. Not even a little bit. Managing a baseball team shouldn't require you to sacrifice your health. It's not worth it. But here's what really bothers me about the Shildt situation. The Padres were successful under him. They made the playoffs both years. They were competitive. They played hard. And he still felt so much pressure and stress that he had to walk away. What does that say about the organization? What does that say about the expectations and the environment? It says that even when you're doing well, it's not good enough. It says that the pressure to win immediately is so intense that it breaks people. And it says that maybe, just maybe, the Padres' organizational culture is toxic as hell. Think about it. Mike Shildt managed the Cardinals for years. He dealt with pressure there, he dealt with high expectations, but he never felt the need to retire early. It was specifically the Padres' environment that broke him. That should be a massive red flag for anyone paying attention. Now let's get to the really messy part, the Seidler family civil war. Because oh boy, this is some Game of Thrones level drama. When Peter Seidler died, he left behind his wife, Shildt, and their 3 children. He also left behind his brothers, Robert and Matthew, who were trustees and executors of his estate. And apparently, Peter's intent was for his wife and kids to eventually take over the team. He wanted the Padres to stay in the Seidler family for generations. But that's not what happened. Instead, Robert and Matthew Seidler took control of the team and, according to Shildt's lawsuit filed in January 2025, effectively ostracized her and her children from the organization. She claims she's the sole beneficiary of the trust controlling the Padres and holds about 24 to 25% of the franchise, the largest individual ownership stake. Her lawsuit alleges that Robert and Matthew committed fiduciary breaches of trust, fraud, conversion, and egregious acts of self-dealing. In plain English, she's accusing them of stealing control of the team that should have gone to her and her kids. She says they froze her out and deprived her of benefits as the largest beneficial owner, while enjoying those benefits themselves. The brothers, of course, deny everything. They say Shildt is trying to grab power and that Peter's actual wishes were different from what she claims. The case is still in court, and who knows how it'll turn out. But here's what we do know. This is ugly. This is family fighting over a dead relative's legacy, and it's happening in public, which makes it even worse. Can you imagine being a Padres fan and watching this unfold? Your beloved owner dies, and within 2 years his family is tearing itself apart in court while the team explores selling the franchise. It's depressing. It's disrespectful to Peter's memory. And it's exactly the kind of instability that makes it impossible to build a winning organization. Which brings us to the sale. In November 2025, the Seidler family announced they're exploring strategic options for the Padres, including a potential sale. They hired BDT and MSD partners to guide the evaluation. Translation: they're probably selling the team. Now, usually when a team is for sale, fans get excited. New ownership means new money, new ideas, new hope. But this feels different. This feels wrong. Peter Seidler died less than 2 years ago. His stated wish was for the team to stay in his family for generations. And his brothers are already looking to cash out. It feels disrespectful. It feels like they never really cared about the team the way Peter did. They're just businessmen looking at a balance sheet and deciding it's time to sell. And maybe that's unfair. Maybe they have good reasons. Maybe they can't afford to keep running the team at a loss. Maybe the family drama makes it impossible to move forward, but it still feels gross. And here's the thing. Who knows if the next owner will be better? Maybe they'll be great. Maybe they'll honor Peter's legacy and actually build a championship team. Or maybe they'll be cheap. Maybe they'll slash payroll even more. Maybe they'll turn the Padres back into the irrelevant small market team they were before Peter took over. The Padres have a lease with Petco Park that runs through 2033, and there's supposedly going to be a provision in any sale that prohibits relocating the team. So at least they're not moving to Las Vegas or something, but beyond that, it's all uncertainty. Let's talk about the actual baseball team for a second, because we've been focused so much on the drama that we haven't even discussed how bad some of these contracts are. Xander Bogaerts, 11 years, $280 million remaining. He's 32 years old and declining. Good luck trading that contract. Manny Machado. He's actually been pretty good, but he's making over $30 million a year through 2033. He'll be 40 years old when that contract expires. 40! Yu Darvish. Solid pitcher, but he's 38 years old and making $25 million in 2025. How many more productive years does he have left? The Padres are stuck. They can't afford to keep spending like they did in 2023, but they also can't easily get out of these contracts. They're in baseball purgatory. Not bad enough to fully rebuild, not good enough to actually contend for a championship. And Preller is still making the decisions. That's the scariest part. The guy who got them into this mess is still the guy who's supposed to get them out of it. It's like hiring an arsonist to be your fire chief. The 2024 season proved something interesting, though. When the Padres cut payroll by $80 million and traded Juan Soto, they actually got better. They won 93 games compared to 82 in 2023. They made the playoffs. They were more competitive. What does that tell you? It tells you that spending money doesn't automatically make you good. It tells you that roster construction and team chemistry matter more than just collecting expensive players. It tells you that maybe, just maybe, Preller's entire philosophy has been wrong from the start, but I don't think Preller learned that lesson. I think he still believes that if he just makes the right big move, everything will click. He's like a gambler who keeps doubling down because he's convinced the next hand will be the winner. Except in baseball, you can't just walk away from the table when you're losing. You're stuck with your bad bets for years. So where do the Padres go from here? Honestly, I have no idea. The ownership situation is a mess. The roster is stuck with bad contracts. The manager who actually had success retired because the job was too stressful. The front office is still run by the guy who created most of these problems. If they do sell the team, maybe that's actually the best outcome. A new owner could come in, clean house, fire Preller, and start fresh. They could build a sustainable model that doesn't require spending $250 million just to miss the playoffs. They could create an organizational culture that doesn't stress managers into early retirement. Or maybe the new owner will be worse. Maybe they'll be cheap. Maybe they'll turn the Padres into the Oakland Athletics of the National League. Who knows? What I do know is this: the moment Peter Seidler died, the Padres' momentum died with him. Everything that made them exciting and competitive and relevant was because of his willingness to spend and his genuine passion for winning. His brothers don't have that same passion. They're businessmen, and businessmen don't usually make great sports team owners. The Padres had their window. From 2020 to 2024, they had the resources, the talent, and the opportunity to win a championship. They made the playoffs multiple times. They had Juan Soto, Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., and a roster full of all-stars, and they couldn't get it done. Now that window is closing. The bad contracts are piling up. The ownership is unstable. The organizational culture is toxic enough to make a successful manager retire early, and the front office is still run by the same guy who's been making bad decisions for 11 years. It's depressing. It really is. Padres fans deserve better. They showed up, they supported the team, they believed in Peter Seidler's vision, and now they're watching it all fall apart in real time. So yeah, the San Diego Padres spent $250 million to accomplish absolutely nothing. They missed the playoffs, created a toxic culture, stressed their manager into retirement, started a family civil war, and are now exploring selling the team. That's not a blueprint for success. That's a blueprint for disaster. And the saddest part, Peter Seidler wouldn't have wanted any of this. He wanted to build something lasting. He wanted to bring a championship to San Diego. He wanted his family to carry on his legacy. Instead, his brothers are looking to cash out just 2 years after his death, and the team he loved is stuck in mediocrity with no clear path forward. So, love you, Padres fans. You deserve better than this. You really do. But until something changes, new ownership, new front office, new organizational philosophy, this is what you're stuck with. A team that spends like the Yankees, but performs like the Rockies. A team that had everything and somehow ended up with nothing. That's the San Diego Padres in 2025, a cautionary tale about what happens when you spend money without a plan, when you prioritize big names over team building, and when you let the people who created the problems stay in charge of fixing them. Peter Seidler deserved better. The fans deserve better. Hell, even Mike Shildt deserved better. But this is where we are. And until something fundamentally changes, this is where the Padres will stay. Stuck in expensive mediocrity, watching their window close while their ownership fights in court and their front office makes the same mistakes over and over again. So yeah, that's it for now. Love you. Subscribe if you want to watch more franchises implode. And remember, sometimes spending more money just means you lose more expensively.